Welcome back to the Caregiver Minute, where every weekday family and professional caregivers gather to refine their skills, gain inspiration, and prepare to serve. Can you imagine how you would feel if you caught someone with their hands around the neck of someone that you're caring for, squeezing them, choking them? You would be infuriated. You'd call the police, you'd have them prosecuted and locked up because that is abusive and nobody would tolerate it. And yet, many people that we serve have the equivalent of someone choking them for 7 to 8 hours of their day, or more appropriately put, their night. People with undiagnosed and untreated sleep apnea, whether it's obstructive sleep apnea or central sleep apnea, are spending a lot of the 24-hour period of each day with the equivalent of someone choking them. They're not getting enough oxygen. And you know how you would feel if someone was choking you for hours on end. It would be devastating. It never feels good to have our airway cut off. And yet we don't do enough, in my opinion, to look out for people who have sleep apnea and are not even diagnosed. One of the problems with diagnosis is that there's a stereotype regarding sleep apnea. The stereotype is that it's mainly a problem for people who are obese. Now, it's true that if someone has a challenge with weight, that's a major risk factor for sleep apnea. And if you're serving someone that needs to lose some weight and they've got a big, thick neck and they snore a lot, boy, if they haven't been tested for sleep apnea, that's definitely something to look into because it could really be affecting them, and it's very treatable. But I can't tell you how many times I've served people who are very thin and they have major problems with sleep apnea, and it's gone undiagnosed for years, and they can't figure out why they've got continual brain fog, and they wake up just feeling totally gassed. Well, if you're not getting enough oxygen all night long, you're not going to feel very good. One of the reasons that even very thin people can have sleep apnea is that sometimes they have central sleep apnea, where the brain simply doesn't tell them to breathe as often as they should. That's a common thing for people who have had head injuries of one sort or another. I think it's worthwhile to screen everybody for sleep apnea. You can buy an overnight oximetry device, especially if you're running a skilled nursing or assisted living facility, and you've got lots of people and you might need to screen everybody. It's not that expensive to get a device and have it on hand so that as new residents move into the community, you can simply check them and make it something that allows you to add value to their experience in the community. Maybe you're doing something that their doctor could have done, but simply overlooked because there's so many other things to pay attention to and so little time. I think it would be a very helpful thing to consider. And if you're serving someone in the home, well, most doctors' offices have an overnight oximetry device, and if you ask about screening for it, just to rule things out, most providers would be very willing to let you do that. So it's worth asking about. Here's a simple test, though, that anybody can apply. You can consider a Mallam Potty score. Mallam Potty happens to be the last name of an Indian anesthesiologist who is trying to figure out how to successfully intubate people and what predicts the success of intubation. He recognized that some people have a much larger tongue relative to the size of the back of their mouth. And when people open their mouth and you look back there to see, can you see the uvula, that little dangly flap of skin? Can you see the soft palate behind it? Is there an opening, or is it completely blocked by the tongue? That's actually predictive of how well you can intubate somebody. Well, there are Mallam Potty scores that go from 1 to 4. And if someone has a Mallam Potty score of 4, it means when they stick out their tongue and open their mouth and don't say ah, they just stick their tongue out. If you look at the back of their throat, if you can't see back behind the tongue, if you can't see any of the uvula, if everything is just blocked, that's a Mallam Potty score of 4. And people with a Mallam Potty score of 4 are much more likely to have problems with sleep apnea. And it might be a 95-year-old little lady that looks very frail and thin, and you're not necessarily thinking about sleep apnea as a problem. But it could be a big problem if she has a much larger tongue than the size of her mouth. I encourage you to look up Mallam Potty score online. You can find pictures of the classifications, and it might be part of a standard assessment that you do. Or if you're serving someone in the home, just have your loved one open their mouth and stick out their tongue, shine a light back there, and see what you can tell. And compare that with the pictures that you see of a Mallam Potty score. MALLAMPATI is what you would look up, Mallam Potty score. I hope that's helpful to you and to the people that you serve. And hopefully we can do a better job making sure that people don't spend any time of their day with the equivalent of someone choking off their airway. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode of the Caregiver Minute.